Hi friends, I am back again for chapter 2 of my book, finally getting to it. Hopefully from here on, things will roll. So I'm going to summarize chapter 2 in the book I self-published in 2020, Sex in the 21st Century, Healing Collective and Individual Trauma. And sorry about the lighting. I always have my lighting messed up. I really need to look into that. Maybe I need one of those circular rings. Okay. Oh, actually, I think I can read. All right. So in chapter 2, I start off by saying that the essence of spirituality is the journey back to source. And the way we journey back to source is by experiencing the physical. So by experiencing the physical, part of that is sexuality. We have to experience it in order to transcend it. So that's the first point I make. Then I talk about the misuse of energy and how some people misuse sexuality, but they also misuse a whole bunch of other things. I mean, you could also misuse food, right? And that's when we get into the whole addiction idea. The third point that I talk about is that all religions and spiritual paths, including tantra, are basically working with energy. We are clearing and purifying our energy body with all the practices that we do. And it's not, like I mentioned before, it's not necessarily that Tantra is about sexuality. It's just basically working with this energy, our creative energy, the energy that is our being, basically. And of course, that can be unpacked. And if people want me to unpack these points, I can get to them again. But the whole point of doing these videos is to just summarize what's in the book. And I highly recommend you read it first, and then maybe we can have a discussion that's a little bit more in depth. And of course, I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm just raising these points and these issues for further discussion, just bringing them forward to bring attention to those matters from a whole different perspective. Another thing I talk about in this chapter is polyamory. And I actually, for the purposes of my book, I ended up consulting with a psychotherapist about polyamory. And funny enough, this psychotherapist said that she had worked with a number of clients who were polyamorous. And she said that usually it always ends up with the women being hurt. It always fires back, no matter how clear the intentions are at the beginning, there's always someone that gets hurt in the end. Which kind of begs the question, people who are in the polyamory community claim that this is like an evolved way of intimacy. But it brings up the question of, if indeed it is evolved, why are so many people being hurt by it? And perhaps those are things that can be addressed moving forward for humanity. Another thing I talk about in this chapter is gender, and how we're so hung up on gender and we're so distracted by gender. It's the whole idea of us being made of two kinds of energies, masculine and feminine. And even Carl Jung talked about this, the anima and the animus, which is the parts of our psyche that are either feminine or masculine. So it's not necessarily the idea of gender as in like the physical form. It's an energetic thing. That's what gender is. But then we sort of, as humans, I think we translated it into the physicality of things. Again, a whole nother discussion that can be taken into depth as well. I also talk about mut'a marriage, which is actually an Islamic concept. It's not a concept, it's actually a thing that happens in some Muslim communities where men are allowed to marry for brief periods of time. And this is just in the more in the Shiite community than the Sunni Muslims. And that allows them to be intimate with the person they're with for, I don't know, a couple of weeks. Let's say somebody's traveling somewhere, they have a wife, but then they actually end up marrying someone for the purposes of sex. And I think I have to research this a little bit more because I don't know that this is something that is sunnah, which means it's not something that was prescribed by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Maybe it was, I don't know. It could be. I need to research that more, and hopefully time will permit me to do so. And then I actually discuss Islamic erotology just because I wanted to bring it forth that in Islam, eroticism is not frowned upon within the container of a sacred partnership, thus described as a marriage. And I think that could be a model for every sexual relationship, in my opinion, but who am I to say that? That's like in a utopian world, basically, but we're very far away from that at this point. Another thing I discuss in this chapter is the harnessing of energy. And so the more evolved consciously, like the more the person has a consciousness that has evolved, that has been refined, the more they are able to control their sexual desires. So, and that's also up for debate, but I think it's, I don't know if there's been research done on that. I believe there might be. I don't know that I've gone into depth in that. In the book, I cite a couple of sources that I came across. So sometimes this evolution does not mean that, oh, you have to age in years. Sometimes this spiritual evolution can happen within a short period of time. But also every individual is born in within a different consciousness level. Everybody has a different capacity. Like we say, you know, somebody's an old soul, or they feel like too wise for their years. That could be somebody who is exhibiting a higher level of consciousness. And then I also discuss in this chapter the idea of modesty when dressing for women mostly, and provocative clothing. And this is also, you know, something that I feel is, it can go both ways, right? Like you could be exposing yourself so much and thus will be calling on yourself some problems as a consequence because of people thinking that, oh, like this person is just conspicuous, or like they're just, they don't care, they're, oh, like they're very easy is the term. It could just not be that that's the case. I think from what I discussed in the book, everybody is responsible for their own reactions and actions when it comes to provocative clothing. Some men will turn in the other direction and just not give it another thought, right? While other men would be like, oh, wow, like completely almost like passed out, right? So what is that about? And I'm just kind of presenting that, and we'll see if some people have any ideas. Please feel free to share. This is all, and the purpose of the book is just an exploration, right? It's like we might not get full answers, but we can get to like a little bit more of an understanding of things when it comes to sexuality. And then I finished this chapter talking about how we need to strengthen the willpower in children, because that's where it all starts. If we have children who have very strong willpower and mind over matter and are able to control their urges and instincts, imagine how much problems we will overcome, socially speaking. And also, like, we need to also strengthen their ability to communicate their needs, to communicate their boundaries. Those are really important lessons for children. It's a shame that they don't provide that stuff in schools. And maybe I will be somehow approaching the schools about it. I don't know, but to all the educators out there that are listening to this, I hope you take that and run with it, because me alone, I can't do much, but everybody else can as a group. So that concludes my chapter 2, and hopefully next time I'll bring you chapter 3. So stay tuned. All right, please post questions, comments, discussions. Be kind, and let's explore this together. All right, bye. Until next time, bye-bye.